Church plants on Crete need sturdy leadership. Paul gives Titus a blueprint for good works that adorn the gospel, sound teaching that transforms daily life. This is Seek, Go, Create. You're listening to Read the New Testament in 90 days, 27 books, in order, in context. We're walking through the entire New Testament the way it was written so you can hear it the way the first churches did. Make sure if you haven't done it already, I keep encouraging you to go to k2m.foundation/NT90. That is a hub that's got all the stuff you need, including some background sources and information and links to all the episodes for this reading plan. k2m.foundation/NT90. Today's stop, Titus, short letter with a big assignment. I like to say it packs quite the punch here. Some key facts. The author is Paul. The date is AD 65, the year 65 in the first century. The audience, well, it's specifically written to Titus, who has been establishing churches on the island of Crete. But similar to 1 Timothy, this letter is meant to be heard by the churches. So Paul is giving Titus public authority, sort of writing to the church through Titus. The setting, 35 years post or after the resurrection. Paul seems to be moving quickly in some of the things he's writing now. James and Peter, we know, have already been martyred, and I'm sure that that word has traveled throughout the empire. So these people are aware of it. There's a sense of urgency. Let's look at who Titus is. Titus is Paul's troubleshooter, is the word we like to use. My true child in a common faith. He's a Greek convert. He was never circumcised. Paul and Titus have known each other for at least 16 years. We know they were together at the Jerusalem Council in AD 49, which was 16 years prior to this letter being written. Paul refused to circumcise him, even under pressure. Titus became a test case for Gentile freedom in Christ. When the Corinthian church was fracturing, Paul sent Titus twice. He was the first to deliver a painful letter. Then, to organize the collection for Jerusalem, Paul trusted him with the hardest assignments. Now, Titus has Crete, young churches, no structure, a culture that's notorious for dishonesty, and false teachers are moving in. This is exactly the kind of mess that Titus seems to know how to handle. The historical context, in Rome, Nero's on the throne, and let's just say he's persecuting Christians. Okay, we've discussed that in previous episodes. We know that Nero is wreaking havoc. In Jerusalem, the temple is still intact. Tensions are at a breaking point, however. We're only 5 years that we now know before the destruction occurs. The church, the leadership crisis is undeniable. James has been killed. Peter has been martyred. Paul senses and knows that he's next. He's establishing leaders everywhere. And these last few letters of Paul seem to be getting leadership lessons in writing. Let's talk about the island of Crete. It's a large island on the Mediterranean trade routes. Jews from Crete were at Pentecost. We know that from Acts 2:11. The gospel may have arrived early. In other words, people may have left Pentecost and taken the gospel back to the island of Crete. We don't know that exactly, but we can speculate. But the culture there is notorious. Paul quotes a Cretan poet, and this is his quote from chapter 1, verse 12. Cretans are always liars, evil beasts, lazy gluttons. That is strong words. but Paul's not insulting. He's acknowledging the challenge. Why now? Paul gives Titus a blueprint. Appoint elders, teach sound doctrine, build communities that can stand on their own. What you'll encounter in Titus, it's practical and beautiful. Good works that adorn the gospel. You'll hear about appointing elders in every town, above reproach, able to teach, self-controlled. You'll hear a rebuke of false teachers who upset whole families teaching for shameful gain. Teach what accords with sound doctrine. Older men, older women, younger men, bondservants. We'll hear about all of those groups. Adorn the doctrine, interesting term, so that in everything they make the teaching about God, our Savior, attractive. The grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation, training us to renounce ungodliness, and waiting for the blessed hope. Saved by mercy, zealous for good works, not by works of righteousness we have done, but by His mercy. I love this term, the blessed hope. Waiting for the appearing of the glory of our great God and Savior, Jesus Christ, in chapter 2, verse 13. This isn't a distant expectation. Remember, this was written in 65. The end of the age is close. The coming is soon. Good works flow from the resurrection power, the Spirit poured out through Jesus, regenerating and renewing. Chapter 3, verse 5 and 6. One loaded sentence captures everything. Grace appeared, grace trains, grace waits. You're going to read Titus, nice short book. Some of you are going to be excited in one sitting. And again, don't read this one lightly. Paul puts a bunch of stuff in this letter to Titus. In our next episode, I'm so excited. We will get to John, the last gospel. It's going to answer some deep theological questions. Basically, who is Jesus? Believe and have life in His name. Make sure you're continuing to follow along with what we're doing at k2m.foundation/NT90. Now, let's set the stage for reading this letter from Paul to Titus. The fishing village smells of salt and olive oil. You're sitting in a house near the harbor, one of a dozen believers gathered after sunset. The day's work is done. Oil lamps flicker against whitewashed walls. Someone enters with a letter from Paul for Titus. Titus breaks the seal. He reads aloud, "Appoint elders in every town as I directed you." The room shifts. This isn't advice, it's a blueprint. You think of the other islands, the other towns. Paul is doing this everywhere, establishing leaders before it's too late. James is dead. Peter is dead. Paul knows he's next. For the grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation for all people. Outside, the Mediterranean stretches dark toward Rome, toward fire, toward martyrdom. But here, in this room, grace is training a people to wait for the blessed hope. And that hope seems so close now. Now, let's read.